review.
Yep. Hey there, sports fans. How we doing? This is gonna be our Thursday review. Week 14, we had a good matchup here. This was the Las Vegas Raiders against the LA Rams in LA. A lot going on in this game. They picked up Baker Mayfield on Tuesday. So they have Wolford out. Wolford was playing, and they have Stafford out with a neck injury for God knows how long. I think
He's on the IR. He's done for the season.
Yeah, probably out for the season. Maybe come back for the playoffs. Who knows?
They're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, they're not making playoffs. Let's be honest. So, but at the same time, Mayfield came in. They emailed him the playbook.
Definitely looked rusty.
But he came in and he was the hero of the game. He actually came back. This one they hit Brady special. They were down two scores with 4 minutes left. And he was able to get them down in position to win, and he pulled it off. He scored 89 yards. He went in the last 2 minutes, or 98 yards. I'm sorry, I get backwards. 98 yards in the last 2 minutes of the game. I think they actually had like a minute and like 40 seconds left. The Raiders had a really huge punt. It's kind of funny because I don't know if you didn't watch the game, but the punt returner waved off the punt, walked away because he thought it was going to bounce out of bounds, and the ball took an ugly bounce, stayed in bounds, and then just rolled. It bounced it probably around the 15, stayed in bounds, and just rolled down to the fucking 2-yard line. And the returner had his back to it the whole time. He walked away from the play like it was dead already. I think he thought the ball went out of bounds. So again, 98 yards. Mayfield.
You're not going to go pick that ball up anyway. It's too risky.
No, but I think he thought it went out of bounds. He could have at least pushed it out of bounds or something, knocked it out of bounds at that point.
You can't do that.
I got to do something, or he could have just scooped it and ran right out of bounds. It would have saved him, But either way, Mayfield came in for a guy who just learned the playbook on the way over. He really knocked it out of the park.
He didn't know the playbook. At that point, it was just, we're going out there to play some football. Go out and get open. I'm going to throw you the ball.
He did have, unfortunately, a mediocre game on Vegas' side. The way their offense has been playing the last couple weeks, you really expected a fight here. But Carr turned the ball over twice. He didn't even, he averaged less than 3 completions a quarter. He was only 11 for 20, 137 in this one, and 2 picks, no touchdowns.
This was a game that Las Vegas couldn't afford to lose.
No,
they had a real bad start to the season. They just went on a 3-game win streak. They're trying to make a playoff push as a team that shouldn't make the playoffs, but they were still technically not. I mean, I guess now they're still technically not out of it, but this game hurt a lot as far as their playoff hopes go. And this was a game that they were supposed to win. The 2 quarterbacks they were versing was John Wolford or a guy who isn't a Ram. He might be playing on the Rams, but
less than 2 days, no practice.
That's what I'm saying. He's never thrown a ball to these receivers. He's never. And even if he has, he might have a couple hours of experience.
The first practice he got with the team was in pregame warm-ups.
Yeah, exactly. So he's never thrown a ball to these receivers.
Yep.
The receiver Cup's not even playing. So the best dude out there from the ball to isn't playing. Cam Akers is finally running the ball again.
Yeah, Allen Robinson is out for the year.
Robinson's out, but Akers been a shit show all year with all the drama. So even though he is finally playing again for the Rams, it's not like he's a reliable, consistent running back.
No, and he fumbled. He actually is only his 2nd fumble of the year. But again, you have to believe that if he had played the 6 games he missed, from sitting out.
And even the games
he probably
would
have fumbled a couple more
times.
Even the
games that Akers wasn't out, they weren't giving him all the touches. They were giving Henderson a lot of touches.
Goal line. They were getting goal line touches.
So Cam Akers was never really a part of this offense this season until the past 2 weeks.
No, but he fumbled. This is only his 2nd fumble of the season, but unfortunately it came in the red zone right before the halftime. Then it kind of killed a little bit of the momentum on the Rams side of the ball. But again,
Las Vegas killed me though because they came out, they looked good. First quarter, they were up 10-0.
Devontae Adams, another one-handed. 3rd week in a row, he's made an amazing one-handed catch. And if you go back and look, you can look at all 3 of them, week by week. They're ridiculous. It's one of those things that, everyone gave Beckham. Beckham made that one catch on Monday Night Football, and everyone went nuts after that. And it seems like everybody's doing it now. But Adams, amazing catch. Unfortunately, they didn't throw to him the second half pretty much at all. I think he was targeted maybe once or twice.
They got away from the game plan.
Yep.
The game plan is always feed Jacobs, throw to Adams.
But again, Jacobs, they fed him the ball. He
fed Jacobs
27 carries for 99 yards and a touchdown. It's not
the Raiders only did half the game plan and they lost.
Yep.
They didn't do the other half of the game. They didn't throw Adams the ball.
You know, notably on the other side, the Rams. You had Atwell had a good game. You had the tight end there. What is it?
It's not ever anymore.
Swarnick. Yeah, Swarnick, whatever. 7 catches for 89, and one of those plays was huge because it was on a 4th down.
That's a receiver. It's not tight end.
Oh, is it not tight end? I thought it was a tight end. But either way, and Wagner was all over the field defensively.
Did Van Jefferson do anything?
Van Jefferson, he had I think 4 catches for like 40 yards, but they were good. They were big catches. They were all again important catches. I think he actually had the touchdown. I'm not positive, but I think he might have had the touchdown catch. But it was again a great game. Just it was a game. If you're a football fan, it was they're not great teams, but it was a great game to watch. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of stuff going on. McVay was very animated on the sidelines the whole game. He was but it just I was listening to one of the announcers. They were saying before Baker got drafted on the flight over to the draft, McVay actually was on the same plane as him, and they got a chance to talk a little bit, and they had developed a really good rapport. And McVay
on a plane ride.
Yeah.
Oh, you're really buying into that story.
Yeah, they spent some time. They spent some time, talking to each other, and I think that McVay saw something in him. So when this guy hit waivers, they snatched him up, and he's trying to see what he can work with and see what he had in him. I think with the way that he played, he's probably going to finish out the season as a starter on that team. But really, outside of that, again, with the exception of the end of the game being really exciting, there's not too much. It's a Thursday game between teams that at this point don't really matter too much.
Thursday night football has sucked a lot of weeks this year.
Yeah.
Denver got a Thursday game against Indy that was ugly.
Yeah, they picked.
There was a lot of really ugly Thursday games
Yeah.
this year,
Yeah,
and this has just added to it. If it weren't for a Baker Mayfield comeback in the fourth quarter, because he is right. I started working a job where I work nights. I got Sundays off. I demanded that because I want to watch football and spend time with family on Sundays. But I miss a lot of Thursday games. But I watched the highlights, and I did watch the highlights. And this game was real ugly and boring up until the Rams made it interesting. Baker did something.
Mayfield didn't even start. He actually Wolford. They gave Wolford the first drive to try to come out, and he went 0 for 1 completions, and he went 3 and out, and he just looked real bad. And they said they didn't even wait to give him another shot. They pulled the plug right away and put Baker in.
This game wasn't really too interesting to watch. Most people probably fell asleep before it got exciting. But if you were able to stay up and watch the end of the game, you got to see a really exciting comeback by Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, a guy who was a first-round pick, and you'd like to believe there's a little bit of something.
So there's not really too much more to talk about with this game. The real question I want to get to you about this, because I was on ESPN after on Thursday night, and articles were coming up and they were asking, did Baker Mayfield in one game with the Rams with no practice, did he do enough to solidify the fact that he's a quarterback that deserves playing time in the NFL?
I think he did enough to prove that he's going to be the starter for the rest of the season on this team.
Okay, but that's not really answering the question. Is he gonna?
I still think Mayfield has more
hit
than
another
enough to,
shot because of literally because of what he did in the fourth quarter of this game.
I think again you're looking at a guy who's a #1 draft pick. He went through some trouble in Cleveland because he had different offensive coordinators for 3 years straight, so he's learning a new offense every year for the first 3 years. He didn't really click in Carolina at all. I don't know what was the problem over there.
Well, that's a big question I got to ask is because the last thing you just said, they have a lot of talent. They have DJ Moore. They started the season with Robbie Anderson.
McCaffrey
Robbie Anderson's never really been a great receiver, but he's always been a good deep threat.
Yeah.
He gets deep balls. McCaffrey is, I'm not going to say
Where did Anderson go now? Because he got traded and then
he went to Arizona and disappeared.
Yeah, disappeared.
But McCaffrey's one of the most versatile backs. I'll say that in the league. I don't know if I put him amongst the best anymore. I got to see a little more out of him. But he's definitely one of the most versatile because he's a very good runner and he's also a very good catcher. Mm-hmm. So he's a very versatile back.
We almost wonder if maybe there's an issue with the offensive coordinator over there and what he was able to get out of
Carolina.
Yeah. Because you almost wonder if the schemes aren't right for the guys because, again, you have all that talent in the roster, and their job is to come out and run the plays that are called. And you almost wonder if they just didn't have,
Right, but I'm going to raise another question. There was the whole thing, I don't know if you remember it, but Odell's last season in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
his father got got him in all this trouble and all this drama.
Because
he was saying how clip after clip after clip, he's like, look at my son Odell wide open, and Mayfield's just not even looking his way. Odell's getting open, and Mayfield's not feeding him. So that's why I ask: is it the play caller, which you just said, or is Mayfield not reading his progressions? Is he not finding the open man? Is Mayfield the problem?
But here's the thing: you also had a team that had at the time Austin Hooper at tight end, who was coming off a 71 reception season with 10 touchdowns from Atlanta.
Jarvis.
Jarvis, who was the number one before Beckham came in.
Odell.
And then Beckham. And so you have 3 viable targets. So as long as
and then and not only that, it's not like teams can sit on the pass because you've got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
And Hunt can catch
the ball. That was one of the most well-rounded teams in the NFL.
One of those things where you're,
as far as skill players go.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where you have to be like, look, guy, as long as he's completing a pass on every play, or not every play, because no quarterback completes every pass, but as long as he's completing passes, it really doesn't matter. The only person that should bother are the receivers who aren't getting targeted. And I understand that, but this is where Beckham needed to understand that he was coming into a situation where a team already had a number one, had a great pretty good tight end. I would say great because Austin Hooper's capable of being a top tier tight end. Yeah, regularly. I think he's proven that.
I think he's a very average. Not going to hurt your team. He's a good player.
He's a good target.
He's never going to be what you just described as like competing for a top tier tight end.
The guy, again, he did catch 71 balls and 10 touchdowns in Atlanta, but he's got good hands and he's a good blocker. And
he's
for tight
really
ends,
slow.
For tight ends, that's Gronk's not the fastest guy, but you get him the ball and he gets moving, dude, and he pushes these guys around.
Gronk's got some wheels, dude.
Yeah, he's got some hands.
For his size, he's got wheels.
Hands.
I've seen Gronk run away from people.
But really, I think...
And if you want to talk about Hooper, I'm not trying to cut you off, but if you want to talk about Hooper, I watched a play. I think it might have been a Week 1 game with Atlanta. It was 2 or 3 years ago when he was in Atlanta. It was probably like 3 years ago.
3 years ago, yep.
And it was Week 1, and Atlanta got off to a big Week 1 win. And they were on the, maybe it was like the 13-yard line, so it was like an 87-yard play. Mm-hmm. And Hooper gets thrown the ball on a little slant. And the safeties, I don't even recall what happened, but they must have like just parted the sea for Hooper. Mm-hmm. And Hooper takes off. And I might have saw like 3 to 4 guys just catch up to this dude. And he was a big enough dude to shrug him off, and he made the 87-yard touchdown.
I remember the play.
But I'm telling you, like I think I almost saw like a D lineman catch up to him. Like this dude's not fast. Hooper's extremely slow.
But you don't have to be. Again, these guys, tight ends aren't known for their speed, really. If they were faster, they'd be receivers.
Vernon Davis had really good wheels for a tight end.
You have those guys like if Kyle Pitts was a little quicker,
Pitts is very fast.
He'd be a wideout. You know what I mean?
No, the argument for Pitts not being a wideout is they say he's too big to be a wideout, so he's more useful if you bring him in towards the line.
Maybe. We'll see.
Because what's Pitts? 6'5", 6'6"?
I think 6'5", yeah.
Yeah, huge dude. Most receivers are between 6 feet and like 6'2", 6'3". After that,
most middle of the pack receivers, most of the elite guys are hitting that 6'4", 6'5".
No, I'm telling you, Jamar Chase 6 feet tall, Devontae Adams is 6'3". Tyreek Hill is 5'10".
Yeah, but then you got on the other side,
Julio, I think was only 6'3" or 6'4".
6'4", again, DeAndre Hopkins is around that 6'4" mark.
That's where Calvin Johnson was a difference because he was 6'5", 6'6".
Yep, animal. But either way.
But we're getting a little off track. The Raiders. The last thing I really want to say about this game is just I'm real disappointed in the Raiders. This was a game where, like I said it, if you watched the last video, the Thursday preview, I said that the Raiders really needed to circle this Rams game. Like, this is a game we have to win. Go out there, and I expected them to prepare for them because you can't sleep on any NFL team. When you don't prepare for a team, that's when upsets happen. So I expected them to instead circle that game, say this is a game we have to win, and let's show up and, like, blow this team out the fucking gates. Let's just take this game over and make sure we don't derail our season on a game with a team that has, like, no quarterback. Because even if Baker's okay, he has no experience with the Rams. So they had no quarterback. And the Raiders lost a game that they really, like, define them as they have issues. They have issues no matter how much talent's on that team. They've got issues because this is a game you can't lose. This is a game that I really think 27, 28 teams, no matter how bad they are, beat this Rams team in the condition they're in right now.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The Rams are in a real beat up situation where they have no business beating any team in the NFL right now.
No, I agree.
Except maybe the Texans,
I
because
agree.
the Texans are brutal.
I agree, and they still have good names on defense. But I mean, again, Aaron Donald was out again on this game. You had Ramsey was playing. Ramsey was all over Adams the best he could be. And like I said, Wagner was out there. Seemed like he was on every tackle. But but the Rams. This is not a defensive team. This is actually, I think, again, I think I saw a stat that this is the worst showing. This is worse than Carolina's, appearance, Super Bowl appearance in the following season. I think this implosion is probably worse than that. I'm pretty sure they statistically said that the numbers are pretty bad.
You know what's crazy about it too? The only difference the Rams have made to their entire roster, they made two differences.
They got rid of Beckham.
They traded. It wasn't a legit trade. It was waivers, but they basically traded Von Miller for Bobby Wagner on defense.
Yep.
And then they lost Beckham.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna blame Wagner. I mean, maybe not having that DN hurts, but I'm not gonna blame Wagner. Wagner's played his ass off this year for the Rams, and excuse me. And
was it Sue over there?
But
last year?
No. He was in Tampa. He just signed with Philly.
Oh, okay.
But the Rams, the only real difference to their team, their defense hasn't played bad this year, is their offense can't move the ball, and I blame it on not having Beckham. They didn't adequately replace him. Allen Robinson was a bust as a pickup,
and now he's out for the year, so it doesn't really matter.
And I'll tell you, it gives me a lot more respect for the impact that Beckham can make on a roster.
I have very little respect for Beckham, so I mean, I'm sure going into these last couple weeks and whatnot that I'm sure you'll hear more about it as he sits back and cherry picks a team. But I think we spent way too much time on this game that really doesn't matter.
Either way, hit like, hit subscribe, watch our videos, tell your friends, tell your family,
and we'll see you for the
tell
week
your
14.
coworkers.
Yeah, we'll see you for the week 14 Sunday preview. Have a good one. We'll catch you later.